Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Kev's Movie Corner. I am Kev. He is Doug, and this week we are talking about Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. And Doug, it's Episode 5, but it is the 7th movie we've watched in this series, because we watched Solo and Rogue One in there as well.
Mm-hmm.
And the brief synopsis from this one from IMDb, or the summary for this, is after the Empire overpowers the Rebel Alliance, Luke Skywalker begins training with Jedi Master Yoda while Darth Vader and bounty hunter Boba Fett pursue his friends across the galaxy.
Yeah.
That's relatively accurate. But anyway, this one is, again, different. We talked about this before, that these ones are all of them are entirely different from each other from the original trilogies. But when I watched this again, this is the first time I've ever watched all of these movies in this quick of a succession to each other. And when I watched these, and I don't know if George Lucas did this on purpose, or if any of the writers or anybody did this on purpose, but I noticed a lot of similarities to these and the prequels, the first three. And I don't know if you noticed that as well or not. And I don't know if it's I don't know if it was done on purpose to show similarities between different people, or if it was just happenstance because they can, or the reasoning behind it. But I want to start.
In what aspect? Just the love angle between Han and Leia, or just the darker?
No.
I mean, it obviously had an overall darker tone.
It does, but one of the things in particular that was a very specific thing was Vader cutting off Luke's arm, because I think it's the second movie where Anakin gets his arm cut off by Dooku in Episode 2 as well. So I don't know if it's something that is that meant to show that they have different paths? Was that a choice? Was that done by accident, or was that a specific choice that they did it to show that Anakin would take a different path than Luke? Because obviously this is later in a timeline. They made that one after this, but
yeah.
Was that on purpose, or was that a afterthought, or did they just do it because they could? I don't know.
I can't imagine there's not some tie in there, and just the way the whole arc of the stories went and everything, I just can't imagine going back and writing the first three. There are a lot of similarities like we said, between Han and Leia, and then you had Padme and Anakin.
Mm-hmm.
The whole love thing developed in there. I'm sure there's some kind of tie-in, and they knew what they were doing with chopping both. I'm pretty sure it's the same hand even. Someone may know more than I do on that, but I think both of their hands, it's the same hand that gets cut off and stuff. So, yeah, I have to admit that's a little different angle than I've ever really focused on. This has always been my favorite, and the way Disney's going, the last couple will probably always be my favorite film. So that is you kind of caught me off guard there a little bit. I mean, I can see a lot of similarities, but I don't know that I've ever really compared it in Attack of the Clones, even though they're kind of done in three. These three were done together, and the other three were done together.
Mm-hmm.
But they're just doing a quick go over in my head. There is some similarities, which a trilogy is always usually, especially after this one, usually your second movie of a trilogy is always the darker one. You know, your first one's getting a lot of the plot set up. Your darker, you know, more. This one obviously is more character driven and world building and stuff like that. So, but yeah, yeah, that's a good thought, Kevin. I may have to go back and watch Attack of the Clones because I didn't actually wasn't able to do that review with you on the
That's
movie
true.
and
Yeah.
stuff. But I just can't imagine as many writers and the whole world because he had so many years in between,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because this came out in 80, and then what Phantom Menace was 99, and then whatever Clones was
2001 or
2001,
something.
something like
2001.
that.
Yeah.
Just can't imagine there's not some tie-in or some, you know, Easter egg type thing on how they
Yeah.
symbolism, maybe symbolism's the right word that I'm looking for.
Yeah. So I know you say that a lot of times the two is the second one is a lot of times the darkest, but I do think of the first three that the third one was the darkest.
In that scenario, it by far
Yeah.
was. Yeah.
But
Yeah. I mean,
um
it was, I mean, you could see a little bit of it going that way, but yeah, I mean, in all honesty, good Lord, I'm not sure the third one isn't the darkest of any of
of
them.
all of these, yeah,
All
I
of them
think it's
combined. I
probably the
mean,
darkest of all nine of these
yeah.
movies. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause I mean, you know, this one really brought, you really got more of a sense of Vader in this one and how
Mm-hmm.
menacing he was. Um, you know, the first one you kind of get a little bit of him, know who he is
Yeah.
and everything, and you see what happens with Obi-Wan, which we discussed that. But this one you really get, and of course, obviously the ultimate reveal of all time, you know,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
of you know the lineages between him and Luke and everything, and you know it's kind of crazy. People are like, oh, it's a good twist, but it's not the best ever. You know, YouTube, and I'm sure you've probably seen these. You know, parents will film their kids watching this movie
Oh,
and
okay.
they want to just yeah they'll just want to see their children's reaction when Vader you know says what he says to
Yeah.
Luke, and I mean the reactions are priceless. I mean, yeah, I've watched a lot of movies and The Sixth Sense has a phenomenal twist. It's
Yeah, it
really
does.
good. um, but man, being 6 years old when I'm sitting in the theater and Vader, I mean, I wish I
But
could go back and relive that moment.
this
That
was
was
a
so
this was a
so cool.
big one. I mean, this was
Oh,
a and this one
huge.
was a long time ago too. Like this one was, I mean, in the 80s this was a big it was a big twist. Um and it's a big one too.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah.
you had a whole movie where you didn't know what was going on. You have all I mean, basically this whole movie too. You have almost two entire movies where you don't know what's going on and then all of a sudden you
Yeah.
have a big twist in a movie.
Yeah.
Um and it's also one of the most misquoted lines too of all time,
Yeah.
which is comical that it's misquoted. It's misquoted in other movies, which is hilarious. It's such a
Yeah.
popular line that it's misquoted in other movies.
Yeah.
Um, but that's just another random thing that's kind of funny. Um, I yeah, you talk about like dark and things and like how menacing Vader is. I mean, he's so menacing that he's willing to kill his own son at one point or either have him join the dark side or kill him, which
Yeah.
is you have to be pretty menacing if you're willing to either have your son join you or kill him. Cuz I mean, that's choice. Like
Yeah. Yeah. And he was willing. I mean, you know, he pretty well proved it that, you know, hey, there's really only one way out of this. You're either going to join the dark side or you're not going to exist anymore.
yeah.
And yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm glad my father wasn't that way at all or anything. You know, you know, it doesn't really give you much of a choice to
No.
think about it,
No, it
but
doesn't.
you know, yeah, yeah, it's just so good to go back. That's one of those movies. I mean, and I think everyone's got movies that you come upon it at any stage. You know, you just turn on TV, it happens to be on, and it doesn't matter whether we're at the beginning, middle, towards the end. I'm going to finish that movie if I see it on.
Oh yeah.
Uh, it's just, it's just, it's so good. I mean, I wrote a few things. Like I said something earlier about character development. I mean, it invests a lot, you know, on the spiritual side and just, you know, I know some people thought it was a little slower paced, but I mean, there's a lot going on Dagobah, when he meets Yoda for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and a lot of that's more of the trying to just that inner psyche. And, Yoda is trying to figure out how strong he really is, and he senses that he's too old, obviously, to train and everything. But yeah, I mean, the world building I felt was really strong in the first one, and this one does a little bit. I mean, Hoth is great. I think that that opening sequence of that what is it? That stop motion animation. And I think I have patience, but the guy who was moving those
Oh, the
AT-ATs,
AT-ATs, yeah.
oh my gosh, one little minuscule time.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to have the patience of a saint to do that kind of stuff. But you know, everything was just so much enhanced. It was amazing how much better technology came in that 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
They advanced their cameras. You didn't have some black lines, shadow lines that are specifically, I think, called something around some of the ships, which if you look real close in A New Hope, you can see those. They got rid of those, which, I've watched some background stuff on, some behind the scenes, and they basically had to because they knew they had they knew they had all the scenes on Hoth. So, it's one thing if you're in outer space and you got a black
But when
line
you
around
got
one of your ships,
white,
but
you
it's
can't
gonna
have
yeah,
that. Yeah.
exactly, it's gonna stand out like a sore thumb. But yeah, I mean, it was it was darker. I think that was riskier because the first one was kind of so uplifting,
Yeah.
and it was all about the rebellion and how successful they were, and then this one just they're all scattered all over.
Yeah.
There's and everything. But Yoda is probably the one thing that really stood out so much on me on this movie is just how much of an iconic symbol he became just after this movie. It was just like an instant classic, and I think part of it for me was how they made him talk. You
Oh
know,
yeah, the phrasing of how, yeah,
yes,
he it's like all jumbled or whatever. I
yeah,
forget there's a certain way that there is a specific phrasing, and I saw it somewhere, but I forgot to write it down, or I didn't think to write it down. But it is a it's actually designed a certain way, the way that the sentence is phrased, but it is just like cut and paste a different than how you normally set up a sentence. But um, it was supposed to be done by Yoda was supposed to be voiced. They actually asked Jim Henson to do it,
I heard that.
who
Yeah,
was the voice of Kermit the Frog.
sure.
Henson, all that. Um, he didn't have time. I don't remember what he was working on at the time that he didn't have time to do it. So he offered Frank. He told
Hmm.
them to go to Frank Oz, who was his like right hand man. He did a bunch of other characters with Jim Henson. Worked at Henson Labs to do other characters. Um, so he ended up getting the job. Oh, Henson was working on a Great Muppet Caper. That's what it was.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
he offered it, or told them to go to Frank Oz, and apparently when they said when Mark Hamill was having trouble in the scenes in Dagobah with Yoda, Frank would bring in Miss Piggy and Kermit to make him laugh, so that he would like be uplifted or whatever
Yeah.
to get a little bit of like character with that going on. So
Yeah, Frank was so good, and when they were doing Dagobah, he had to be, that stage was built like 5 feet tall,
mm-hmm.
and he basically had to be underneath doing all that, and
Yep.
yeah, yeah, such iconic characters.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, between Yoda, Chewbacca, you basically more or less a lot of people call him a big furry dog, and then you got Vader, and just all these different characters, Greedo. I mean, the whole world that he developed in his mind, and I've probably repeated myself on other reviews here. It's just it still to this day baffles me how he just came up and developed everything and had these just great characters. I mean, it's one thing to get a great character one from a movie
Yeah.
or a movie series. I mean, he's got multiple characters that just are in the you know movie history. I
Yeah.
mean, you just think of these characters and you can say Chewbacca, everyone knows it's Star Wars, or you can say, just to have that many characters be such iconic characters this many years later says so much about the original trilogy where, all of them got introduced.
Yeah. Um, I the did you and I didn't think about this again until I was watching all these together, and I don't know what you think about this. And I know that this one was recorded first and the other ones were recorded afterwards. But watching this and watching how Yoda acts when Luke first meets him, and how
Mm-hmm.
like neurotic and crazy he kind of is. I don't know how to take that. Is it just because he's been on a planet by himself for so long and he hasn't interacted with people? Because Yoda is like, even at the end of the other movies or in all of the other movies, he is calm and collected. He's always, you know, very stoic, and he becomes that as he, progresses even in this movie. But when he first meets Luke, he's kind of a crazy little menace is what he is.
Mm-hmm.
Like going through all of Luke's stuff, and I don't know if is he trying to test Luke, or is he just hasn't dealt with anybody for 30 years and doesn't know how to interact with people anymore, and that's just he's just kind of gone insane.
I personally think he knew Luke was coming.
He can
Obi-Wan
see
said,
everything, so that's possible.
yeah, I mean, Obi-Wan, he sees him when he's in the snow, you need to go to the Dagobah system and train with Yoda. Uh, you know, I'm sure Obi-Wan and Yoda had spoke and he knew he was coming. Now, I guess there's other people that could have landed on Dagobah. You see a very small snippet of the planet. So who knows if the whole planet's like that, if he just happened to ironically land in the exact swamp where Yoda lives, but
Mm-hmm.
I have to always think to myself, he kind of loses control of his of his spaceship,
Yeah.
He can't control it. R2 can't override it or nothing. I think some of that had to do with Yoda controlling to make sure that he landed in the correct spot
Okay.
to find him. So I think that was all just. I think he knew who he was, and yeah, he is a little ornery when he takes the stick and beats R2D2 and stuff like that. But I think he knew it was Luke all along. I think it was more or less just let's see what this guy's like. I think he knew he was coming
Okay.
type thing. So
That's another thing is he like hits R2D2 like and acts like he doesn't know who R2D2 is. But
yeah,
he would have known, and I guess that's because he didn't. I don't know if they knew that he was going to make three movies before, but there's a little bit of disconnect because there's
sure,
three movies before.
yeah,
You don't have some of that kind of stuff, and it's they
yeah,
almost did too much where they met each other before that
yeah,
almost doesn't line up at this point. Also, I
yeah.
noticed some of the things that don't line up now watching them again in quick succession, whereas like when R2 is able to fly around because he's got little jetpacks that he has that pop out of him in the earlier movies, and he doesn't have
Yeah.
those anymore. It's like, well, you didn't lose those as you got older, like,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, I think and there's a little bit across the board on some of that, making everything completely tie together.
yeah, there's
I
gonna
mean,
be, and I get it. Like,
yeah,
it just it's just a couple things that popped out to me. Now, not saying this again isn't a great movie. It's just there's some of
yeah,
the things that popped out to me more than others, and those are just a few of the things. Again, this is still a wonderful movie. I'm very much nitpicking things. Um,
no, yeah. Usually, I'm the one nitpicking
yeah.
things. I haven't hardly said anything bad
Well,
about it.
this is like
So,
your favorite movie
but
of all time,
yeah,
probably. So,
yeah, yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, but you bring up both your points with what you've been saying. They're all legitimate points, and he does a total 180 because he goes from, like you said, being a little neurotic pain in the butt to when they get into his little hut, all of a sudden there's the Jedi Master. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, it's if
He
you
starts
hear
talking to
Obi-Wan
Obi-Wan, and
exactly,
he's
and
like,
it's like,
he's just like,
okay,
it's like you snap a fingers, and he's like, okay, yeah, he's too old, and he's just talking back and forth with Obi-Wan like
yeah,
nothing, and it's like,
yeah.
oh, okay, there he is
Well,
again.
maybe there was a little thought early on. We'll make this little green guy bipolar or something, you know, and all of a sudden he just. But yeah, and you never really see that side of him ever
Mm-mm.
again.
No, you don't.
Everything is very so serious. So I don't know if it was. And you got to keep in mind, like I've said this whole time, you know, George Lucas originally wrote these for kids.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so maybe it was, and we'll see it a lot in the next one with the Ewoks and stuff. You know, so maybe it was that playful side,
Yeah,
but
the
you know,
Ewoks
you can't have an all.
that carry off the stormtroopers to eat them. The
Yeah,
little teddy bears that carry off the stormtroopers to eat them. Yes.
basically, yeah. I mean, not to dive too much, but yeah, they're getting ready to cook up the Han and all them until C3. Yes, but I think a lot of that probably went over the
I think it went
heads
over
of
the heads of
you
little
know
kids, but yeah,
it's like animated movies when they're made for
they
kids,
make
but
adult
there's
jokes.
enough
Yeah.
jokes that go over
Mm-hmm.
their heads
Yep.
to entertain the parents too.
We'll
I
get to
think
that next
some of
week.
the yeah. So yeah, I think they're I think they wanted to show a little playfulness side of him, but yeah, you can't have an all time one of the most powerful Jedi masters ever being that childish, trying to train someone to take down a Dark Lord of
Mm-hmm.
the other side. So little continuity there again. It would be interesting to talk to George and ask that if that was,
And again, it may
what the
just be
thought was.
because it was 20 some years between when they made this and when they made the other ones. It's going to be hard to make him be the same, it's going to be
Yeah.
hard to make him be that stoic all the way through when you kind of did that, but I don't know. That's a possibility.
Yeah. So what else are you going to nitpick about one of my favorite movies here?
I don't think I have anything else to nitpick. I did have a couple fun things that I found out about it, though. A couple fun trivia things that I found out.
Yeah. What's that?
So, apparently, Harrison Ford wanted Han Solo to die at the end of this movie.
Yep, I've read that.
Because he didn't want to play the character again. But George Lucas didn't want that to happen, just in case he wanted to come back, so he froze him in carbonite. That's the whole story behind why he's frozen in carbonite and doesn't actually die.
Yep.
Which is interesting.
I've kind of heard that too. Yep.
Yeah. So, and I mean, Han Solo.
Well, if he throws him in carbonite and he can't get Harrison Ford back for
then it's over.
Return of the Jedi, then okay.
Who cares?
And I don't know if they just threw enough money at him that he's like, okay, I can't refuse, or what the thinking was. But it was, I mean, if you think about it, it's really well done because no one would really have ever thought about it because, they check him right away.
Yeah. They say he's
and
alive.
He survived.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean long term.
They can bring him back. Yeah.
Exactly. So it was well done in that sense if you do have a character.
Yeah.
And you couldn't bring someone back as Han Solo that wasn't Harrison Ford.
No.
I absolutely hate movies if you've got 2 or 3 seasons into a movie, or for that fact, maybe 2 or 3 movies, and then all of a sudden you still have, that'd be like having a different Thor in the Marvel movies. Just do away with the character or something. But I just I
figure
just
out
hate
a way to get rid of the character, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. So they did it great putting him in carbonite. If they can't get him back, then we'll just write him off as he didn't survive. If we get him back, well, then you got the storyline of what happens.
Yeah.
So
exactly, because they even mentioned before they put him in it. Lando says that they're not sure. They've never tried it before, so they don't know if he'll survive. Like, they don't know if they can put him in it. They've never tried doing this before, so they don't know if it'll work. Like, so yeah,
because he was in American Graffiti with George Lucas.
Yep.
And they did an interview with Harrison Ford after because that was very successful. Really, really well done movie on a low
Yeah.
budget. Beautiful, beautiful cars in that movie.
Yeah.
But they did an interview with Harrison Ford after A New Hope was a success, and they were talking to him, and he's like, "Oh right, it's a success." He's rubbing his hands together, and he's like, "Now I can go make." It was almost like now I can go make real movies, or I can go,
Yeah.
I'm well known enough now that I can get roles that aren't for kids, type thing and stuff. So, and I don't know. I mean, when you think of okay, when you think of Harrison Ford, do you think of Han Solo or do you
I
think
think
of
of Indiana
Indiana
Jones.
Jones?
I think of Indiana Jones first.
Okay, and
Han
why
Solo's
is
probably
that?
two. Han Solo's probably second.
Okay,
Um,
do you like the Indiana Jones series better, or do you just like his character better? Because he's very similar in both of them in the sense of he's very
he is.
snarky
Yeah, it's
and
almost the same
everything.
character.
Exactly. So I'm
Um,
just curious why you think of him as Indy more than Han.
I think I've watched the Indiana Jones movies more,
Okay.
and I think it's just he's the like he is the title character. Like the movies are named after him, and that
Sure.
like he is Indiana Jones. Like that is
Hmm.
him. I think that's the only reason why. I don't
Okay.
I don't think there's anything else to it. I just that's who I think of him as is Indiana Jones. I mean, I know
Yeah.
him as a Han Solo as well, but I just think there's also there's more Indiana Jones movies with him in it as well because I think there's
Yeah.
what 5 Indiana Jones movies and he is Indiana Jones in every single one of those. So, and there's
Yeah.
only well, I guess there's 4 now Star Wars movies with him in them, but um, yeah,
I mean, I personally I like his his Indiana Jones character better,
okay.
but when I think of Harrison Ford,
You think of
I
Han
just
Solo.
think of Han Solo first, and I think that just goes to when I was introduced, my childhood,
Yeah.
all that. But I like his character better in Indiana Jones
Yeah.
than I do Han Solo.
I mean,
Yeah.
he's kind of like you said, he's kind of the same thing. He's kind of an anti-hero type like snarky,
Yeah.
he's kind of the same thing in both franchises. Like the same type
Yeah.
person.
And I'm sure there are. I mean, I think of like Keanu Reeves and stuff who had a great, run with the Matrix, and then, you know, he had the standalone Constantine, but then he did John Wick. And, I'm just trying to think of, how many characters are there that, are once again so well known that, you know what I'm saying,
Mm-hmm.
that have done like three, they've done two separate type of movies with 3 or 4 movies in them, and they're so well known because, if you strike gold and you get one series that has maybe, or, a movie and a sequel or even a trilogy, to strike
Yeah.
gold again and get a whole nother series is I would think not that common. And Keanu Reeves is the first one that comes to mind, and I'm sure there's many others. But and the funny thing is, they're both done by Lucas, and obviously Spielberg's the one that directed him. But Lucas is the one that came up with the story.
Yeah.
If you watch behind the scenes, um, I think Spielberg wanted to do a James Bond type movie, and Lucas is like, "I've got something better for you," and it was the Indiana Jones story. So
Yeah.
it's like in the middle of writing all these Star Wars movies, he's still got this whole other idea of that franchise,
Yeah.
which is just great in its own right. So
Yeah. I I mean, I can't think of the same thing that you're doing. I can't think of off the top of my head, can't think
mhm.
of any other like actor that I can that's in two like a main character in 2 major franchises like that.
Yeah,
Um yeah, I can't off the top of my head again. I'm sure there are other ones out there and I'm sorry for anybody. Out of the 5 people that's watching, I'm sorry if I'm forgetting your favorite actor or actress
yeah,
in that
yeah.
series. But I'm sure it is. I can't think of them off the top of my head. I the meditation chamber that Darth Vader is sitting in.
Mhm.
The sound of, do you know where the sound of that opening uh came from? Do you know where they got the sound of that opening? Because everything in this has, like, every sound that they had to make in this, it's not computers because they didn't have that technology back then. It all had to come from somewhere. They had to,
Oh,
the like lightsabers are like the buzzing of a television and mixed with
yeah.
something else. Like, it
Yeah,
all comes from
Chewbacca's
somewhere.
bears
Hmm.
growling or
Yeah,
making noises and stuff. I do not know, nope, where
they
that came from.
they said the sound of the meditation chamber opening is reportedly a recording of the whole block of Alcatraz cell doors slamming shut.
Okay.
So that is kind of, I want to say I mean, it kind of goes along with what, I mean, you got a
Yeah.
villain, it kind of goes along with what I feel like it should be, but that's an interesting way to get that sound. I don't know who would have
Yeah.
thought that that would be the sound that you, I don't even know how you think that that's what you want to use, or, like, I understand, like, if you hear a television humming, it's like, oh, okay, that's an interesting sound. I can use that
Yeah.
for a lightsaber. I don't know who decides that, yeah, let's go to Alcatraz and get the sound of a cell block door, it's a block of cells slamming shut to use
Yeah,
for
and
something.
even if that's not true, whoever thought of that is great. I mean, just tying it in with the type of people that were out, like you said, villains at
Yeah.
Alcatraz and everything. So, but if that was true, just yeah, yeah, I could have guessed for the next 10 years and never would have came
Yeah.
up with anything like that. So, it is amazing. You can go and you can read a lot about where they came up with R2D2 noises, C3, and all
Hmm.
of them, and sometimes. Like I said, with Chewbacca, I can see that, but some of those I never would have guessed in
No.
a million years. That's where they got that noise and stuff. So
Um,
that's interesting.
yeah. And the last one that I have is that apparently George Lucas did not want to share creative rights on this movie, so to avoid it, he used he financed it himself by uh, bankrolling the $30 million production from using his profits from A New Hope and a bank loan. Um, and he recovered the investment within 3 months of the movie's release.
Yeah, it was a risky gamble.
Yeah,
I think it paid off quite
I
well,
think he's
but
okay.
yeah, everyone told him, and I think it was even Spielberg that told him, "You don't use your own money to finance a movie, type thing.
Yeah.
That's a recipe to go broke." And he rolled the dice on himself and his vision, and it paid off. He also, and I don't, we really didn't discuss this in A New Hope, but he got fined by the people that run the movie association, all this, because he was the first movie that did not show the names and everything before the movie.
Yeah.
He just started out with the opening and he showed everything at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, "You can't do that." And he's like, "Well, you can find me all you want. This is how I'm going to do it."
Yeah.
And I don't know if he got fined for each movie or by the time Empire came out, they had already changed those rules. But yeah, he had to pay a big fine because he's like, "No, no, this is how I'm going to do it. You do whatever you need to do."
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the first movie that opened up with
No
that
credits.
scrolling.
Yeah.
Yeah, not, and then which is pretty creative in itself
Yeah.
too, because then as the scrolling disappears on New Hope, you go in, and the first thing you see is the bottom of that ship going
Mm-hmm.
over, and I mean, or at least for me, I was hooked right then.
Yeah.
It was like, to me, that looked so real that
That's
it's
cool.
like, okay, we're
Yeah.
a minute and a half into a movie, and okay, you got my attention, so but yeah, I mean, there was one other thing that I talked about, or I wrote down. It just kind of, like we talked a little bit, it just redefined the role of sequels,
Mm-hmm.
and everything. And we did talk about that. And I've always told your dad that's the one thing I really enjoyed um, about this is each movie, even though they're considered sequels and everything, they're completely different.
Yeah.
They are. The worlds are different. And I kind of wrote down that
Yeah, because you didn't
let's
go
see.
back to any of the same locations that you had
Yeah.
in the first movie.
Yeah.
I
You,
mean,
you
we didn't
know,
see any of the same places. It's just they're all new places. I mean, I guess you see, you see the Star Destroyer, but you don't even really see a lot of the same ships. Like you see,
No,
that's
yeah.
it. Like,
Because I mean, I did a little research, and a lot of follow up or sequels up until that point were done cheaper. They were just trying to, be on the coattails of the first one,
mm-hmm.
where this one was more expensive.
Yeah.
It was more character driven. It was dark. I mean, it kind of, it proved I wrote it proved a blockbuster could be mature and character driven. And a lot of times you could tell it wasn't just done. Obviously, it was done to make money, but you know what I mean. It
Yeah.
wasn't just thrown together without putting some creativity in it. And there's not too many movies out there where your sequels or your second movie is better than your first. I mean, personally, I'm going to be a kid here, but Toy Story 2 I think is better than Toy Story. But there's not a whole lot. I mean, Matrix 2 is close, The first one was so unique that I
Yeah.
don't know if you can beat that one. But this one is just, some people are like, well, one downside that I was reading, some people didn't like it, was, A New Hope is a standalone movie. In all honesty, if you did not want to do anything else with A New Hope,
It could end.
the way it ended,
Yeah.
it could have just been a movie.
Yeah.
And if it would have bombed, and you would have thought, okay, well, that was an okay movie or
Yeah.
whatever.
It could have stopped.
Exactly. This one, you could tell there was no finality to it. You could tell this was leading to a third one.
Yeah.
And everything. And a lot of people said, well, they didn't like it because it didn't have that finality to it. They didn't really get anything solved in the movie. It just set everything up for the next one. But I think that, in my opinion, is a positive, because I think it made you want to and be interested in seeing how are they going to conclude this with the next movie.
Mm-hmm.
Where, a lot of people didn't like that. And I personally didn't see it that way. I saw it the opposite, where I'm anticipating what is going to happen with the next movie by the way they did that. So
I get that. Yeah. Because, I mean, it doesn't really matter to me. I'm going to, with these movies at this point, and I know you don't like how Disney has made the last couple of these movies, but I have a feeling, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but Jurassic Park is one of my favorite franchises of all time, and the last few of those that they've made have not been great. But it doesn't matter how many they keep making. I'm going to keep watching them because I love Jurassic Park so much. And I have a feeling that even if they keep making these, if they keep not being great, you're probably going to still keep watching them just to see what they do.
probably to some, I really don't have.
You may not watch them again and again and again,
Yeah.
but I have a feeling you will keep watching. Like, you'll watch it once, and then you may not ever watch it again, but you'll watch it once at least.
Yeah, I have a feeling they're going to get back to. I think they're going to get back to some of the old school stuff with Star Wars. Myself, I mean, Kathleen Kennedy, who's ran the company forever, stepping down. Um, the guy who's taken over as president, he was kind of a lot of stuff behind the Clone Wars, and all that. And I think he's a little more old school. I'm hoping they get back, and that's what we talked about when we did Rogue One. Man, that felt so much like an original Star Wars movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then they kind of dropped the ball with Han Solo movie. And I'm just hoping that they see and listen to the fans as to the direction that the last two took. And I hope they realize we're losing our fan base. Now, partly you're losing your fan base because we're all getting old and dying off. But for the younger generation that's not there yet, you can look at the statistics and numbers and stuff, and numbers don't lie. That's what everything motivates, is money and numbers and stuff. So I just have a feeling that the next one is going to be a little darker. It's going to be a little bit back to old school.
I will say that there has to be, like, I know you say that Star Wars, like, the fans are dying, like, they're getting old and dying, but, it's 2026. And it was
Yeah.
only in 2019 that Disney spent several, like, several tens of millions of dollars to build an entire two Star Wars themed universes at their parks
Yeah.
and opened them in 2019.
Yeah.
And they spent tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars to probably hundreds of millions of dollars to build those. And they're pretty flippin' cool. Like
And like I told you the other week with your lightsaber, I'm a little jealous that you've been there too.
they
So
have, I mean, I know that they're based in like the Disney time span with like Ray and stuff like that. But even with that, it's still Star Wars themed. The whole thing is Star Wars based, but it is it is very immersive, and that's for if somebody has to be invested in Star Wars, or they have to think that they're making some money on it somewhere for them to put that much money into that and build that
Oh,
out that much.
they wouldn't have.
Yeah.
What they at the time they paid in 19, they paid George Lucas what $4 billion.
Yeah, I
That's
don't.
that's a lot of money.
Yeah, and that I don't even know when it was that they bought it. It was before that they bought it. But yeah,
Well, it was that. Yeah, it's been a while. Sorry, that's when
it was
that was built and everything
2010
else.
or
So it's
two
yeah,
thousand something. Yeah, 2010 or 2012 or something like that.
yeah,
They
because
bought it.
George is 83, 84 now, and so
Yeah.
I think he also realized that, hey, I want this to live forever,
Mhm.
and they can take it in different directions. And you're right, I probably will watch it. The new Mandalorian movie coming out, though, I have no interest in seeing it. I did not watch. I watched about the first season.
Mhm.
I didn't watch much more of it. So some of these spinoffs I'm not enjoying.
Okay.
And I just feel that it kind of goes along with the idea of how they're doing the movies and everything. But like I said, not going to lose hope. Yeah, the next actual Star Wars movie that comes out, I will probably watch. And I keep hope up that, that we'll get back to. I know I'm a creature of habit, and
Hey,
I
we all
I
are.
don't like change a whole lot. And yeah, I know a lot of people, the 5 people or whatever that watch this, like you like to say, are probably saying, "Hey, you old man, just move along." It was great, but I'm stuck in my old ways a little bit. So, but you liked Rogue One too. You have to
I did
admit,
like Rogue One. I really enjoyed Rogue
and
One.
you liked it because it felt like a Star Wars movie, if I remember
It was
right.
just fun. It was just fun to
Yeah, it was
watch.
fun,
Yeah.
and we'll get to these last. Well, it's really the last two. Force Awakens, I
Force
enjoyed.
Awakens
So
is good.
it's really those last two where it's like, okay, what are we doing? But that's for a different podcast.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, because we've got one more of the original ones before we even get to those. So,
yes, yes, we
so
do.
I already know we've already talked about what your ranking is on this. You put this at number one.
It is my of so far of everything that's been released. Yes, it is my
This is your
one favorite go to Star Wars movie.
and
Yes.
I think we talked about the number one the number one on Rotten Tomatoes is A New Hope. That is number
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
So where do you think this one falls if that's number one?
Uh, Boy, howdy, I would say it has to be number two.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Number two. It's 90.
And
It's
mean,
1 point lower. It's 1 percentage point lower.
yeah,
That's it.
I can't argue with A New Hope being ahead of it. I mean, they're both great. I think last week I was saying that the first one was, I think I said, a cultural phenomenon. It just was so different than anything you'd ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
So this one, you kind of knew what you were getting into.
Yeah,
as far
that's true.
as, but so I can see where people would put the first one ahead. But for me, just the introduction of Yoda, deeper character development, you really got to kind of see how menacing Vader was, and just Hoth, man, just the battle on Hoth, and then when they're flying through the asteroid field, which a
Mm-hmm.
lot of those were actually potatoes.
Yeah.
They're like, let's see what we can get away with.
Which is just crazy.
Yeah, just the advancements in technology. Cloud City is just beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
The way it was painted by I think Ralph Quarren. I think he painted most of that, and it's weird how they did it. They're painted on glass, and then they they combine their sets in with the glass settings, and it's just once again world building and everything. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a few little things in the Empire. I still don't quite understand how Vader through this whole thing. I don't understand how Vader doesn't know that he has a daughter. I mean, we see it. Well, we don't see it until Return of the Jedi that he can sense from Luke that he has a sister, so he knows he has a daughter. But it's like, I don't know. I mean, there's a little bit there with Vader not sensing that he has a son. If he's that powerful, I know they hid him away in Worlds, but I just feel that he should have known earlier on that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, the only thing
nitpicking a few little things.
The
here,
only
but
thing
nothing.
with that I can come up with is, like you said, they hid him away, and he wasn't ever looking because he was just told they all died. So there wasn't ever any reason for him to believe.
I guess so, but I mean, when he gets rid of, when he kills Obi-Wan and stuff, Luke's right there, and I just think if Anakin is this strong with the Force, wouldn't you be able to sense that you're? Because when he says, when he's talking, when the ship lands and he's like, I feel something I haven't felt in a long time, that was Obi-Wan's presence that he was feeling. And I'm just like, okay, so he can feel his presence, but he can't feel his own child. So
yeah, but he wouldn't know what his child's presence was because he wouldn't have ever felt that. So
that's
a presence he wouldn't have ever felt because he wouldn't. He would know. He would probably be able to sense. He would be able to sense Padme's presence, but he wouldn't know what his child's presence was because he's never seen his child, been around his child. His child was born however many millions of miles away when he wasn't there, and then he never had any idea that it was born because he thought Padme had died. So that's the only thing I can come up with is that he did.
And I'll give you that. And I've always just assumed that the presence, he was so focused on Obi-Wan's presence that, it pretty well blocked all the other stuff.
Everything else. And that's possible too. That could be part of it too. So, that's all.
But it is by far my number one movie.
Yeah.
And I just think it's got everything in it, and they don't all go downhill from here, but they're all they're all lesser, if anything. So,
well, I mean, if this is number one, then all of them are lesser anyway. So I get that.
There's still some good aspects of some movies to come, but it's like I said, when I rewatched it, Amanda was like, why are you rewatching this again? I said, well, I just want to refresh her, before we do the podcast. And she's like, can you not pretty well quote every line in the movie? I'm like, I can. I'm just looking for some maybe technical things that I've not looked at, or I've watched it so many times I've overlooked it.
Yeah.
But when I watched it again, I enjoyed it just as much as I always do.
Yeah.
Never gets old. So.
Okay. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I don't have anything else. I think that's about it for me for this week, unless you have any last comments.
No, I could just sit here and just smile about the movie all day. Yeah. So I'll stop talking.
Okay. I think that's about it then for this week. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Next week we will be watching episode 6, Return of the Jedi, which is the last of the original trilogy. And don't forget to watch that and join us next week, and we'll talk to you then.